Welcome to the Library Connection. I'm Tracy Thomas, Director at BB Comer Library, and I want to thank you so much for joining us today. And I also want to thank the TV station for giving us a platform to get really good information out to our community and to the people that watch. So thank you both for today. Today we're going to be talking about something. The weather is getting nice outside, our days are getting a little bit longer, and people are going to start looking for things to do outdoors. And so today we've got Ashley Hernandez with us with Ashley Swim Academy, and that is one of the natural things that people do is they kind of flock to water when it starts to get warm outside.
Absolutely. Water becomes the main topic here in the spring and into the summer. Everybody needs a way to cool off, for sure.
And so, Ashley, you have a really unique program that you do, and we want to talk about that today for the people that may not be aware, especially for people that have small children. But before that, I want to just talk about you and tell us who you are.
Okay, yes. Of course, my name is Ashley Hernandez, and I own Ashley Swim Academy in Childersburg. I teach anywhere from children 6 months old all the way through adults how to swim and float independently in the water. I also train lifeguards, all sorts of things. Pretty much anything aquatics, I'm the place to be.
Wonderful, wonderful. So how many years have you been doing this?
20 plus years. I was adding it up on the way here. I think it was 22.
So that means you're 25 years old. You've
That's
been doing
correct.
it since you were 5.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes. And you know, it really doesn't seem to be that long. I love it. People all the time are, how do you stay in the water 12 hours a day? It's my happy place. I love the water. So.
It's what you do.
Yes.
So, you know, for me, for instance, I didn't grow up around water. You know, we didn't live at the lake. We didn't go to the beach a whole lot. And we certainly didn't have a swimming pool in our backyard.
Yes.
So water was just not a real comfort zone for me. And my mother never liked the water and never liked to swim. And a lot of that stems from a bad incident that happened. You know, everybody's got a water story that terrifies them.
Yes.
Where, you know, a cousin was playing in the water, pushed him under, scared them, they never wanted to get back in. Yeah. Those kinds of things. So why is this important for parents to start really, really early with their kids?
So when children start really early, there is no learned skills prior to that, so it's a lot easier the younger they are for them to pick up on these skills and pick up on the correct form in the water. One thing is the drowning position is talked about a lot, and that has a lot to do with different flotation devices and things like that in the water. And that's why it's very important to do your research and know what type of flotation device you're going to put your child in if you're going to put them in one in the water. If you're going to be in the water with them, especially in a pool or something like that, it's good just to hold them and not actually have them swimming independently in the water until they are fully skilled. And so as children get older, there does become more fear and more experiences in the water. And so, but, you know, it's never too late to learn. I even have some women and men in their 80s that have learned how to swim.
Wow.
So it's never too late. And it's always a good life skill to learn how to do.
So you don't just do children?
I don't. I teach adults as well, yes.
So let's talk about what is the prime age, how, you know, because you wouldn't want to teach them in a time when they're not going to retain the skills. So what is the earliest that you would want to start?
So they do have to be able to roll over to their back independently and sit up to be able to learn how to float. So the age usually is around 6 months old. Once they have that core strength to roll over, they're able to roll over to their back in the pool and float independently.
Okay.
As they progress and get older, once they're over a year old, they can learn the swimming part as well. That has a lot to do with learning how to walk and developmentally where they are. Okay. So once they are, there's a little baby floating. But yes, once they are over a year old and able to walk, they can learn how to swim and float and swim across the pool and then be independent in the water.
Okay. So the same goes for adults. You got to be able to roll over.
Absolutely, yes.
Core strength and be able to roll over.
Yes, physically able to roll over, absolutely.
So we need to stay in shape then, right?
Absolutely.
So go ahead.
I was just going to say swimming is a great exercise. It is. It's easy on your joints and everything else. And I think that's mainly why I have a lot of older men and women that have now just taken to it, that something like you said earlier, had a fear early on and or experience in the water and want to overcome that fear and have, you know, gain that confidence and now enjoy just being in the water.
In the water. I think there's something therapeutic about water. Absolutely. Yes. So let's talk about what is ISR. Tell us what that means.
So that is my main program that everybody talks about. It's called Infant Swimming Resource, and it's designed for children 6 months old through 6 years old. That being said, I still teach it to the same premise to even my adults. They learn to
Okay.
swim and float and swim, which is the self-rescue skills. I feel it's most important to learn how to float on your back. No matter what age you are, if you can roll to your back and float, you can be safe in the water. Of course, the swimming part is always fun too, but to me, the swimming part is the easier part. It's the fun part. The floating part is a little bit harder, but it's so important, and so many children and adults have accidents, whether they're at the lake or at the pool or wherever, but if they could get on their back and float, they could rest and breathe and be okay.
So this is actually a rescue method.
Yes.
There's a separate part that's teaching them how to swim, and then there's a part that teaches rescue.
Yes, with ISR, it's actually, once they're over the age of 1, there's actually both parts combined. They learn to swim and float and swim. Under that age, they just learn to roll back to float. But the great thing about ISR is the self-rescue part is integrated into it. So they do learn the self-rescue skills. And we also, once they're fully skilled, they do practice in their clothes as well.
Okay, so kind of mimic the real world, what might take place if
Yes.
they were maybe accidentally unattended around water.
Yes, yes, and I have several stories of where children or some of my students have fallen in. Actually, 80% of the children who have an accident in the water are fully clothed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so what did you have to do? What kind of training did you have to be able to teach this and to learn this?
So if I back it up a little bit,
Okay.
I started out teaching YMCA swim lessons when I was 16. I became a lifeguard. The YMCA that I taught at in Montgomery was like, okay, let's become a swim instructor. So I did that. Then once I moved to Auburn in college, I became the aquatics director at a health club there.
Okay.
At that time, my cousin's children were going through the ISR program in Arizona. And he brought it up to me, and I was like, oh, that's a wonderful program. I want to learn more about that. So I applied, and it's a really long process to get accepted into the program. But once you're accepted, there's about 60 hours a week of in the water and out of the water training for about 6 to 8 weeks.
Wow.
It's very intense training program, and it's actually almost a totally different way of teaching that I had learned previously, but it works. And once I started learning the program and learning how it works, I fell in love. Yeah.
Well, how many students do you teach? Well, do you do lessons all year long, or do you just do them when the weather's warm?
I actually do them all year long. My pool is heated to 88 degrees. I'm a little
Okay.
spoiled, but I love the warm water. So, and I have a big bubble over my pool, and it's heated as well. So I teach all year, and I teach from about 8 o'clock in the morning until about 8 o'clock at night every day. So, or Monday through Friday, and then actually on Saturday mornings as well. But yeah.
Well, how many kids a week do you teach?
Oh, I don't know. So it depends on the time of year. January is a little bit slower, so maybe 20 to 30 kids a day.
Okay.
In the summertime,
That's a
50
lot.
kids a day. Yeah, and adults as well. Yeah.
That's a lot. Well, this is a fantastic program, and we're grateful that there's somebody in the area that is trained to teach this. And we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk to Ashley a little bit more about this program.
A funeral service represents a family's final farewell to their loved ones. Knowing this, we go beyond what is expected to ensure the ceremony is beautiful and memorable, a truly fitting tribute to that special life. We invite you to visit us to meet our staff and tour our renovated facility complete with a new dining area and catering services. We've been serving the people of this area for over 40 years, and we think that you'll be pleased to find that making lasting impressions remains our first priority. Curtis & Son Funeral Home, Sylacauga, Childersburg.
us for the 17th Annual Magic of Marble Festival at Central Park in downtown Sylacauga, April 1st through the 12th. Observe sculptors from across the United States, along with our featured Italian sculptor Eddie Carrera, create beautiful works of art. Stop by the Marble Festival sale room at the B.B. Comer Memorial Library to purchase original sculptures, sign up for a quarry tour, and participate in the Marble Scavenger Hunt. For more information, call 256-249-0961.
Welcome back to Library Connection. I'm Tracy Thomas, Director at the B.B. Comer Library, and today we're talking with Ashley Hernandez, and Ashley owns Ashley Swim Academy. And Ashley, you've been talking to us about the lessons that you do with kids. You don't just do children, you do all ages.
I do. One of the programs I teach is ISR, like we mentioned. ISR is the self-rescue program. Those lessons are predominantly for my younger children, and they learn to swim, float, swim. They're about 10 minutes, they're individual lessons, and they're specifically designed for each child. Okay. So when a child comes, registers for that program, they actually register with our registration evaluation team with ISR. So there's a team where our home office is in Orlando, and it's a team of nurses, and they review all the children's files. Actually, ISR is the safest swim lessons around worldwide. And each child will fill out a medical form, and everything that child has medically or has had, or any kind of medications or anything like that, will be filled out on that form. And then me and the registration nurse will go through the file and develop a lesson plan for that child. So whether a child has developmental delays or takes Zyrtec, for instance, there's a protocol for each and every instance there.
Wow, so there is a medical component to this that takes any medications, physical condition, anything into consideration before you ever start with them.
Yes, absolutely. And so that's the way we're able to develop these lesson plans and for all children to learn.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. There's very few things. So you're not just taking them out in the backyard, your swimming pool, and throwing them in the water.
Not at all. I get that all the time. I do. No, it's not like that at all. So it's very introducing them to the water the first day. It's slow and controlled, and it's based on sensory motor learning. So they learn a little bit and a little bit more, and they come 5 days a week. Each lesson is only about 10 minutes long.
Okay.
And doing little bit by little bit by little bit by little bit, they're able to gain that confidence and be able to do the skills independently. Actually, I never even have to speak to the child. That's how I'm able to teach the babies, because obviously they can't understand, okay, now it's time to roll over on your back and float, right? So by touch and the environment, they're able to learn, oh, I need to get air. And air is that reinforcement, so they learn to roll over to their back all by themselves and float.
So what would a typical lesson look like? Let's say somebody shows up with a 6-month-old baby, your youngest customer.
Okay, yes. So the first day, they would bring them in. When it's their turn, they would hand me their child. We would go over a set of questions. There's about 10 questions, and it goes over, is your child's bowel movements normal? What have they had to eat today? How is their sleep? How is their activity? We review this every day to make sure that that child is ready for that lesson that day. Then I would start out by watching their breath control and how they hold their breath and how they breathe, and I'll start to lay them on their back, and they'll feel themselves float up. Once they're able to do that, we progress into a little bit more and a little bit more by themselves until they're able to do it over the next 6 weeks.
That's incredible. Do you see that as people get older that they're able to hold their breath less, that their capacity for holding their breath diminishes, or is that all just about lung health?
Really, it is all just about lung health. It varies from all different across the board.
Okay, I
Yes.
just wondered if that's something that we need to be thinking about as we get older, if there's anything we can do to make sure that we don't lose that capacity.
Yes, a lot of it with the water is being comfortable in the water. Once you're able to relax and learn your own buoyancy, that is huge. From teaching babies all the way through adults, learning your own buoyancy in the water and your body awareness in the water, once you're able to do that, you are able to relax and be able to hold your breath and get to your back and be able to breathe and lay there.
So when they flip over on their back, then they learn how to go back and swim just a little bit and then flip back over, or do they just stay on their back?
So for the ones that are not able to walk yet, they just learn how to roll to their back and float there independently. Once they're able to walk, I do teach them to swim about 5 seconds, roll over to their back and float, catch their breath, take a couple of good deep breaths, then roll back over and swim. So they do learn that swim, float technique across the pool.
Do you have any stories to tell us about how this has worked?
So I actually just had a student, about a month ago that fell off their dock. The parents were out there with them. They turned around, they turned back around, and the child just took off the end of the dock. She was fully clothed, of course, because it is still a little bit cooler outside. She rolled to her back. It was right there floating, so the mom jumped in and pulled her out. And that has happened, it seems like every spring, summer, multiple times. I get this story over and over and over. Usually the parents are close by. The hard thing is with drowning is it only takes 10 seconds. 10 seconds isn't very long for there to start to be developmental and different delays after that once the child is or the person is underwater. So, obviously with all the lakes and ponds and rivers that we have around here, that water's dark. And so if they do fall in, you don't have very long to find that person before, something tragically could happen.
So you teach the same method regardless of the medium of water, regardless of lake, pond, swimming pool, whatever?
Yes, I do try to reemphasize the floating, especially in the lake or the pond or something like that, because you don't always have something to grab onto. So if a child was to fall into a pool, they can swim and float and swim to the steps or to the ladder to climb out. Not always on a dock or somewhere like that is there a place to grab onto. So I reemphasize we need to stay in our float till somebody can come and get us.
If you teach 2,000 children and you get one story like that where one child was saved, that makes it all worth it, doesn't it?
Every day, yes, that makes it all worth it. That's what keeps me going. I know, people talk about the crying in the children and different things like that. And yes, at first it's scary. It's a new environment. It's kind of like daycare. The first day you drop your child off at daycare, they're going to fuss, right? Yeah. So they have to get to know that person, that environment. I can't tell you story after story. They start out crying. The parents are like, oh, I don't know, But after, give it a couple weeks, and that child is running through the door, ready to get in the water. And most of the time, as the parents always laugh, then they don't want to get out. So then they cry because it's time to go. So, they have a complete turnaround. I can't tell you, I would say every week I have a student like that turns the corner, and it just makes it all worth it when I hear stories where children have used their skills and I was like, all that crying at first, it was worth it, wasn't it? A crying baby is a breathing baby. That's one thing I always say. And also, there's a story on Facebook that a mom posted that lost their child to drowning, and she said she posted a picture of a child crying in lessons, and she posted a picture of her child in the hospital room, unresponsive, and this is not. This is not. I'm trying to think of the word. I'm so sorry. This is not trauma. The child crying in lessons. This is trauma. The child losing a child to drowning. I just can't imagine. It happens. Unfortunately, drowning is the leading cause of accidental death in children under the age of 5. Every year we lose children here in Alabama, Florida, all around. It's very, very sad. And someone just actually messaged me this morning about how they had lost their child to drowning, and just thanking us for this program that we have, and it just makes it all worth it if we can just help one family.
Absolutely. Well, I know you have lots more stories like that, and so thank you for sharing that one with us.
Yes.
And it's one of those things, I guess, that you need to be proactive and already have the skill set in place before you say, oh, hey, we're going to the beach next week, let's run get a lesson, and let's get that in before we go.
Right. Yes. It takes time to develop these skills. It's not an overnight program, but with ISR, that is one great thing. Is usually within about 6 weeks that child learns how to self-rescue. Programs that I've taught in the past, that's one reason I moved on to this program, is because it is a rather quicker program to learn these self-rescue skills. Okay. Some children, during regular lessons, it may take 2 or 3 years before that child is able to fully swim and float independently in the water. Another thing that I get with ISR lessons is I don't use any kind of flotation device during lessons.
Okay.
I don't use any kind of goggles during lessons because you're not going to have those things in an accident. I need to make sure that that child knows what to do and how to do it all by themselves if nobody else is around.
That it as closely mimics what the real world scenario would be as possible.
Yes, and once a child learns how to swim, because people say, how do they open their eyes underwater? Well, they learn, and they learn that they need to find their safe place. And once you're able to do that, when you're playing in the pool later, use the goggles. That's fine. But first, let's learn how to do it without them, just in case.
I think this is fantastic. And
Thank
we're so
you.
grateful to have you in the area.
Thank you.
So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back in just a few minutes with Ashley Hernandez.
The all-new Marble City Pharmacy in Sylacauga is your destination for the highest quality health care. Our remodeled and expanded pharmacy gives us the space to serve more patients. We've added a drive-through window for those times when you don't feel like getting out of your vehicle. And we still offer delivery within city limits. We feature a full line of over-the-counter medications and supplements. And don't forget our stunning new gift department. New building, same great people. Marble City Pharmacy, here for life.
Great. What am I going to do now?
Time to visit Brown's Auto Collision.
No problem at all. We've contacted your insurance company and we can get you back into original condition right away. And I just want to remind you that all of our work is covered by a lifetime warranty. We're done.
Wow, that was easy and looks great.
Brown's Auto Collision.
Where quality is no accident.
The Sylacauga Magic of Marble Festival proudly highlights our local marble industrial leaders, Imerys, Omia, and Sylacauga Marble Quarry AM3. Imerys specializes in the processing of calcium carbonate for industrial use. Omia is a leading global producer of industrial minerals from calcium carbonate. AM3 Stone strives to provide the highest quality products for construction and architectural design.
Welcome back to the Library Connection. I'm Tracy Thomas, and today we're talking with Ashley Hernandez. And Ashley, I'm just fascinated with the whole program that, you know, you teach children. You're not just teaching them how to swim, you're teaching them how to self-rescue.
Yes, and that is the main component of this. That is my biggest goal, is to teach them how to self-rescue. And you know, with lessons, it's important for them to come back and reinforce these skills as they get older. Our bodies develop, especially the young ones, and so they're able to build on their skills. And even to the point where after they're past this program, I teach all the different strokes, diving, all the things in the water, so they can progress and enjoy those things and learn how to do more things in the water.
You know, I remember growing up, my family lived in Saudi Arabia for a couple of years, and in order to swim in the pool there in the community that we lived in, you had to pass your, swimming test.
Right.
And it just seemed like the ultimate goal was always, can you jump off the diving board?
Yes,
that was always
yes.
like the grand
Yes.
finale. You can swim if you can jump off the diving board.
Yes, and you know, a lot of places are still that way for swim tests. Hey, can you jump and swim this far? Which is important that you can swim a ways, but what are you going to do when you get to that point, where that stopping point where you can't go anymore, especially in a place like the lake? That's why I keep talking about floating. You know, floating is hard. Floating is not necessarily the most favorite thing of all the children. That, I want to swim, let me go, and that is great. You know, parents want their child to be able to swim far. But being able to roll over and float is so, so important. There's just nothing else that compares to it. Even treading water. Treading water is great. I teach treading water. Obviously, my lifeguards have to be able to tread water. But floating, there's just nothing else that beats it. If you can roll over on your back and float, you can float there, as long as you need to. Yeah.
So I know we talked about the fact that the first few lessons are not always sunshine and rainbows.
Yes.
That
Yes.
some of the kids do start out afraid, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Have you, and I know you said too, with consistency, after a few, a week or a few lessons, that they do overcome that, just not fear of the water, but the new feel of the water.
Yes.
That's not fear, but the feel of the water, I think, is probably Do you have any kids that just never do overcome that and you just can't go any further with them?
You know, with these type of lessons, even if the child is upset, I always compare it to putting your child in a car seat. You wouldn't dare drive, you know, across town without putting your child in a car seat. If they cried, you would still put them in a car seat. And that is why the crying in lessons, you know, doesn't bother me. It's because I know that once they gain this confidence and learn what they need to do, it is for their best interest. You know, there's things that we do for our children all the time that they might not necessarily like at first, but it's important. And so as a parent, I have 3 children, you know, I know that it's an important skill that they need to learn, and it could save their life one day. And ultimately, that's what matters.
Absolutely. So I know we've talked about you do the maintenance lessons and you have them full dress in their clothes and their shoes to mimic what would happen if it were an accident.
Right.
What if you've got a planned day? You've got a planned day at the pool, you've got a planned day at the lake, or you've got a family trip planned at the beach. What are some safety things that parents can do to help make sure that these days go well? I know somebody mentioned the color of the swimsuit matters.
Yes, that is absolutely correct. I actually did a video not too long ago and showed different colors at the bottom of the pool. And you know, bright colors, as you see, I have my bright orange on. You can see bright colors in the water. If it's blue, black, gray, something like that, it's really, really hard to see that up under the water. And so you can't tell if there's somebody or something up under there. That is why it's so important, first off, to plan to have bright colors on your children, bright colors on everyone. Also, it's important, and also it's important for you to designate a water watcher. At birthday parties, that's where drownings a lot of times happen, family gatherings, things like that. Everybody thinks everybody is watching the water. And it is important that you designate one particular person that is in charge of that water. Of course, everybody can watch, but that person knows that they don't need to take their attention off the water. Give them a 30-minute time frame and then move on to the next person. That way you know that somebody's there. So many times, you know, you think everybody's watching, I'm just gonna run to the restroom real quick and I'll come right back. And things happen, like I said, in 10 seconds. So you need to make sure that somebody is designated to watch the water at all times.
Well, Ashley, we are almost out of time. Do we have anything we didn't cover? Is there anything extra you wanted to throw in there for us that I might have failed to?
No, I don't think so. You know, just floating is a life-saving skill. It's so important. I think that everybody needs to learn, and it's never too late. So, yeah.
And just quickly, I know you and I were talking, you said you do lifeguard certification. I know that sometimes that's hard to find. I was looking for somebody last summer and it's kind of hard sometimes.
Yes, I teach lifeguarding training year-round as well. And so, yeah, anybody over the age of 15 is able to go through the lifeguard training program. I also have done it where I have prepared people. So say you're not quite up to the skills you need to do the lifeguard training, I also have classes where you can take and build your skills to be able to take that class.
Okay, perfect. Well, Ashley, thank you so much. I mean, as you can tell, Ashley really loves what she does. She's got the patience to work with children and help overcome some of those fears, but it's also nice to know that she does adults as well. So thank you so much, Ashley, for joining us and being a great resource for our community.
Thank you for having me this morning. I appreciate it.
Thank you, and thank you so much for joining us today.